Welcome to the very first episode of the CX Roundtable. This is a new series that's going to come once a month where we stop pretending that the playbook's working and start having the real conversations that CX leaders have been craving. I'm looking to bring people together that are going to tell you the things that usually you have to experience it, to live it, to figure out yourself. No more gatekeeping. Let's bring the people together that can give us the real information, and let's make this CX space stronger than ever. It started as something pretty simple. If I get the right people in the room, if we get everybody to drop the performance and just talk candidly about what their experience is, what's broken, how do we achieve success, what's their strategy, what needs to change, really cool things could happen. These roundtables aren't about panel polish or perfect answers. By now, you know, none of my conversations are polished. But that's when the magic happens. These are unfiltered insights. These are shared wisdoms. There's honest debate from people that are actually doing the work, who care so much about this community that they want to bring their knowledge to you together. Since this is the first episode, I've got to kick it off with a bang. So we're going all in on BPOs, but this isn't going to be your regular BPO conversation. There's not going to be any sales pitches. There's no corporate gloss. There's definitely no buzzwords. This episode started with me actually sending these three incredible humans individual messages saying, I have a wild idea. Tell me if I'm crazy. And somehow they all said yes. Because they all agree that we need to stop trying to convince everyone that ethical outsourcing is different, and instead just show them what the future of BPOs can look like if you do it the right way. No apologies, no comparisons, just leaders building the right way. So I've got Craig Crisler, I've got Greg Collins, I have Blair Wilen. These are three powerful voices who aren't just talking about change. They're building companies that prove you can do good and do well at the same time. The four of us are going to pull back the curtains on what real partnerships look like, why commoditizing people is a race to the bottom, and how customer experience, when done right, becomes the true differentiator in a world full of lookalike brands. Somehow, these three beautiful humans had never been in the same space together. We're going to be jumping in mid-conversation because I did not hit record fast enough. I'm so proud to know these people, for them to trust me for a conversation like this, and for everyone to see what the future of BPOs is going to look like. This is a roundtable that's built on shared values, that's built on a vision for something better. And now you get to be a part of this change too. If I haven't told you yet, I'm Sarah Caminiti. Welcome to the very first episode of the CX Roundtable. Let's dive in mid-sentence. Instead of having the narrative be ethical, 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 yes, it's more expensive, but this is why it's great. It's like, no, this is what good looks like, and we're doing it the right way, but we don't need to talk about the other way, really, because you shouldn't be paying any attention to that. Like, this just is the future of BPOs. We are together. We're not competing right now. We're not selling our companies right now. We're just three leaders that believe in what needs to change. You're doing the work about it. And now you can all come together and explain how BPOs are supposed to work, because that's what you're building.
Well, it's almost like, it's interesting how much we can talk about all what I think collectively all three of us are trying to do in this space is basically the shift in outsourcing from a commodity market to an actual strategic partner. And the commoditization of people, which is essentially how the BPO model has been for years and years and years. And it's ridiculous and it's scary and stupid. And we all collectively agree that that's wrong. We all know that this is a wrong way to do it. And all the big boys are continuing to do it that way, but that's why they're unethical. Whereas this natural kind of evolution of what's happening in the space, I think, and what we're all collectively, all three of us are doing, points to exactly why we're different than everybody else, because we don't think that that's actually good outsourcing. We know that it's hiring better people, treating them well, making sure that they're strategically aligned to the initiatives of the companies that we work with. that's a non-commoditized model. And as such, it's a better strategic model for all companies. People just don't realize it because they're so used to the old model. They're just stuck there still sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think people get stuck in fancy words like vendor versus partner and blah, blah, blah. And we're all good at marketing and saying the right thing. And then competitors that are extrapolating value at the expense of others come along and start to use buzzwords like ethical outsourcing and living wage, but they're not doing it. It just sounds good on a website. So to try and break that paradigm, a question I like to ask or give when I'm asked, well, how should I go evaluate finding the right partner? If I'm not after a vendor, I'm after a partner. The paradigm I give is interview that company as if you're interviewing to be their chief customer officer. What is the lens that you would have? What is their culture? What is their philosophy on building teams and environments? What are ratios? Like if you're going to head up the CX organization, you have standards of what you would find acceptable to go work, even your salary, right? The old question like, well, what's the job pay? And they're always taught when interviewing, well, don't tell them a number, but say something like, well, why don't you tell me what you think it's worth and I'll understand the value you place on it. Why is that any different if you're looking for a strategic partner in the CX space to be an extension and build out your voice and brand?
Yeah. Well, I think
is that you wouldn't cut corners for your own job. So why would you try and cut corners or extrapolate or take advantage of others to execute your job?
Well, I think it all kind of goes back to something we all talk about all the time. It's about like understanding the value of CX and actually putting money in CX and understanding how that impacts your business. So it's really easy to say, I saved us all this money through this cheapo outsourcing company. It doesn't matter. They're not with us. We take care of our employees, whatever. It's just, another way for us to save a couple of bucks. No one's going to ask questions about that because they're not actually our employees. But the reality is they are your employees. They are the people that are dealing with your customers. And it's just another case of not understanding the actual value that exists within CX and not investing in it the way that it needs to be invested in.
Well, I think the key, Greg really hit on it well, like that key thing of like ask as if you're hiring them for the work that you like, yes. As if you're hiring them to be internal to you. Like that's where like I have this joke. I tell internally, I hate the word BPO. Like I hate business process outsourcing because basically it implies that we're going to take this one little process and we're going to outsource it instead of it just being like, oh, okay, well, like this is an extension of your team. This is an extension of your CX work. Like this is your team. Like this is actually yours. And it isn't just some random vendor across an ocean that you can get for cheap to do this work repetitively. It's actually an extension of your team. So if you're treating them as if you're hiring them into your own team, then all of a sudden the conversation changes, right? Like now you're actually thinking about, oh yeah, are they ethical? Do they treat people well? When was the last time they hit somebody? I mean, like that, those kinds of things are like really important. And I love that approach because it does highlight that idea to your point of that. It's not just like we can throw out strategic partnership and say it's what it is, but we're an extension of our clients' teams and they should reflect your values and what you believe you would do for your own team. So if you look at that outsourcing partner and they say, oh, they're not treating the people the same way I would treat my own people internally, then that's a problem. There's a disconnect. And how would you expect them to do that great of work for you if there is that level of disconnect? But further to that point on the CX investment in CX, there's a whole, we probably do an hour on that, like why the measures are wrong that reflect value return ROI on CX. Blair posts about this stuff all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when you're shopping for a BPO could truly be your best friend. Like if you're shopping for a technology partner, a new help desk or an AI, like your best outcome with that company is that their product actually works. A BPO, I rarely hear us talk about scope creep or doing things outside of a contract. I feel like BPOs are more willing to and wanting to help a business well beyond the scope of a contract. Like we all want to help them pick the right tech. We all want to help them implement it. We want to help them with tagging. We want to help them with help desk, with knowledge base. Like we want to do more and more and more. And so when people are evaluating a BPO, it's like, you can hire them to outsource this process or to outsource this function, but you can go recognize so much more value from your BPO. They're probably very, very, very willing to give you value well beyond your contract. So find someone that's going to, evaluate that, right? Don't just look at how can I outsource this one process, but like you said, Craig, like a strategic partner that's going to help you strategize on things you haven't even identified. They're going to be proactive. They're going to be willing to say yes to almost anything. Like, I think that's really what differentiates our industry from others is, we're not just going to do the job and do the minimum and meet the contract. We really can be a brand's best friend. We can really take their customer experience to the next level. So,
yeah. And not to mention the skill that is required of all of these agents that are hired to work in a BPO to have to like know how to use all these different systems, to know how to follow all of these processes that probably are set up in many different ways, not to mention not their first language that they're working in. But it's when you actually think about the individuals that are working with BPOs and the type of pressure they're under and the type of change that happens so rapidly there and the skills that they need to acquire to do their job well, like, holy cow, these are magical people that you are bringing into your space, and that needs to be recognized.
Well, I think building on that, good partners shouldn't have an axe to grind or an agenda of their own. And when you hire a CX agency like the three of us, you're getting someone that has a depth and width of different tech stacks. Like AI is super exciting, right? But I think all of us here would say AI is a tool, not a strategy, right? 100%. A hammer doesn't saw a log grow well. So having a broad understanding of practical application of where different AI tools or anything within the tech stack fits to the problem you're trying to solve. Are you looking for someone to do it cheaper somewhere else, or someone to bring in a strategy that will drive long-term value?
Yeah.
And so you get people that are looking at problems with a large tool set to say, this is the tool that will best saw that log.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's, even if you take that and kind of extrapolate it even further to like the people that are involved here, and I think all of us kind of think about people that work in this space the same way, Sarah, we fundamentally care about these folks who are working for our clients. Like we all fundamentally actually care about them. We want them to grow. We want them to get better. We want them to learn. And they, if anyone leaves SupportNinja, I always joke, I want them to leave better than when they came in the door, right?
Yeah.
I want them to be in a better position. It makes me super happy if someone gets like a great job somewhere else that was like so much better than they were when they first entered the door at SupportNinja. Like, it's that concept of being like, we focus on tenure, like, is a big number for us. Like, how long have the agents been with us? And not because we want to keep them, but because we want them to grow and they want to stay and continue to work and build their careers. But that emphasis on the people side of it, it moves it away from that commodity mindset that, vendor management tends to look at as like, and it moves them towards, this is a team that's going to grow and build with me over a strategic partnership experience that's long. It's not short, like, we're going to iterate with them. We're going to make them better. And these agents are going to get better and better and better and be excited about the work that they're doing with their clients. And that's where I think, unfortunately, when you think about traditional outsourcing, like, that's where they fall short. They don't want you to think about these agents, they're like, don't think about them. They're not good. They're not people really in their minds. They're just numbers. We're like,
they're SKUs.
Yeah, exactly.
They're SKUs. Sad. Absolutely. They're SKUs, race to the bottom, unit economics, whatever fun phrase you want to use. But back to that paradigm we keep on talking about, how would we build this internally, right? Like we all would say when we're building our own team in our own offices, we're not hiring jobs, we're building careers. We talk about CE, we talk about meeting people where they are, because we not just intuitively understand, but in our tenure have seen it play out time and time again, that when you invest in your employees, they invest in your customers. There's a direct correlation, right? So why would you look to a partner who didn't behave the same and expect different results? It's insane.
So insane. And since we're talking about like the longevity of a good partnership, What is a good indicator of a successful partnership? Like after 6 months, so you've got these folks that come to you, they're clueless of what to expect. How do you measure that it's going well?
Yeah, I can take a shot at it. I mean, obviously, you know, company growth impacts BPO growth, but obviously, if you're seeing headcount growth, that's probably a good thing. They're recognizing obviously the value of what you're bringing them, and they're asking you to deliver more of that value at a greater scale. Um, the easy answer is obviously take the KPIs you defined up front and see, are we meeting those. But that's too simple, right? That actually kind of plays into the commoditized aspect of the industry. I think the feedback, at least that I take value from, Greg, Craig, maybe similar, is very much holistic and almost like not tangible. We talk to our clients very, very, very regularly, and ultimately, like, how does their business feel? Like, an owner, a founder, a head of support, they'll have a good sense of their customer base, whether it's 100 customers or 100,000 customers. Are my customers happy with the support they're getting? Are they happy with my brand? At least the part that I can control, right? Products break, products sometimes don't work, but they have this holistic sense of how their brand is reflected and how well they're supporting their customers. So, if we're talking to our clients regularly, like I think the three of us do, you get this, they have an innate sense of do they feel like that function is handled? Um, do they feel like they're doing right by their customers and delivering the experience that they're working to deliver, or beyond what they've expected to deliver? So I think it's not necessarily like a measurable number necessarily, on success. That we can all probably point to numbers that show success on any given engagement, but it's very much getting a sense of, are the right people at the business? Are they getting a strong sense from their customer base really holistically? That's what I can really I can get a lot of, very, very strong sense from people. Are we delivering at or well beyond what they expected from the BPO relationship? And KPIs are really just the very, very early set of getting that feedback.
Yeah, I think, I agree, Blair. There's the kind of that stuff, which is like, whatever term we want to use, table stakes, or, like the stuff where we hit the numbers, like those are like, but I also think one of the things that we ask folks a lot, I'm pretty sure you guys do in those kind of conversations we have with our clients, because some of it is intangible. Like it's hard for sometimes our clients to kind of describe what the benefit is that we're giving them. But one of the big things that we always ask them, and we do it like in quarterly increments, is like, did the perceived value of did we exceed the perceived value of what we provided you? And just to kind of, because if you feel like you're getting more for than you're paying for, technically, like then they're going to be like, oh yeah, like this is valuable to me. And it also holds our teams accountable to driving that same level of engagement with our clients and making sure that we're kind of driving value to our clients in a partnership. Because Sarah, you and I talked about this. It's that co-value creation. Like we're both in this game of trying to create value together. And so like if you're seeing that, oh, this is actually building value to me, I'm actually getting something out of it more than I perceive the actual cost, whatever the cost is on the contract, then I'm like, oh, this is great. And then all of a sudden I feel like they tend to us, it's like a flag. And so I would say for anyone who's outsourcing like 6 months in, if you don't feel like the value you're getting out of if you're not getting enough from your provider, that's great. The hard part I will say about that question though is that it gets a slippery slope around the commoditization number that we were talking about, because sometimes people can be like, oh, I just want to go really cheap. And so of course, if it's dirt cheap, it's going to, the perceived value is going to be anything better than one is like, great. So there's a little bit of a slippery slope there. Like sometimes with that conversation, because we'll say like, like, are you getting, we've committed to you to fix this thing for you, this problem that you're having, and we're working on that. We're working with you to make that. But more importantly, are we actually driving value to your organization? Is really the question, right? And if you feel like you're getting a value getting pushed your way from an outsourcing provider, you're probably in a good relationship. I would think.
Someone gave me GQ before, obviously not my looks, but we talk about EQ, we talk about IQ, but then GQ, gut quota, GQ. And I think there's a tremendous amount of value in there. In a material way, I see this happen a lot. We joke, maybe I shouldn't share it externally, but we have a term internally. I'm now exposing it. We call it BPO rehab. That's probably our number one client. They've been in the BPO space and they're just wildly underwhelmed. The KPIs are being hit, but they're wildly, it's almost like come sit down on the CX agency couch and let's get the feelings out, and now we can talk about the strategy. There's so many black eyes, you called it in a post the other day, Craig, in this space. But a common feeling statement we hear from people is we feel like we work for our BPO, they don't work for us. So they're hitting the KPIs because we're constantly in there doing it. And they call it integrated. So are they bringing you ideas? What's that feeling? Or we can think as senior leaders, you all have people on your team, whether they're a senior leader or not. And there are those that walk into a room, and when they leave, they've lessened the weight on your shoulders. They're executing, they're bringing ideas. So that GQ totally is there, that feeling statement. But I think another advantage that I know all of us do is it's really easy in CX to get wrapped up in the KPIs because that is the most understood or baseline at the C-suite or the board level. So the expectations are low. They're around KPIs that they don't understand, but the buzzwords are there. So it's having a partner that can say, okay, that's nice. We need to hit these. Just because they're table stakes doesn't mean they're important. But what are the business line objectives, the MBOs, the OKRs that are aligned to your board, that are aligned to your C-suite? And how do these translate into it? Because this is one pillar. What are the other things on your C's 5x5 or whatever terminology you use? And I think that's also a real opportunity. That's how you lessen the shoulders. You get that feeling where you have a partner that comes in that just doesn't say, this is how I'm going to execute your ask, but I understand where the hockey puck's going for your business. And let's have that strategic conversation, how we align to MBOs at the C-suite, not just do a CX KPI. How do we do that translation? And I don't think a lot of people are doing that outside of this room.
No, I definitely don't. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because that just further pushes this partnership as you're almost like a consultant for these companies that are coming to you, because often they're coming to you for a BPO, maybe because they don't even understand what they need to get out of a BPO, but people keep telling them, get a BPO, and they don't really know how to build their brand from a customer's perspective. They don't really know what this is going to look like in a year for their company if they do XYZ. They don't know what any of the KPIs mean. They just know that they need to pay attention to them or fudge them so that they look good. But then they come to you thinking that it's just going to be another checkbox that they can say that they've done, but instead they are giving like their experiences, their questions. You create a safe space, and you are an authority to fill in the gaps in these areas that they didn't know they necessarily needed to pay attention to. And that's such a cool gift to further like promote the value that exists in paying attention to your customers, which means paying attention to the people that are talking to your customers and guiding them through the next stage of your business. And you all are talking to a lot of startups and a lot of people that don't understand the foundations that need to exist. And what are some of like the really big trends that you're seeing with like those first handful of questions that these companies are coming to you with when they're just trying to check those boxes? I know this wasn't from.
I can tell you what they shouldn't be asking. When I was thinking about what they shouldn't be asking. Like,
thank you for speaking up. I didn't have the courage to say I know what they should be asking.
Yeah, because the problem there, like what ends up happening, and again, this is a byproduct of whether it be just traditional outsourcing, but also the way people think about customer experience in general and stuff like that. Like it's not about average handle time or like first response time. Like that's not the actual question. Like what you're trying to understand is what is your brand voice? What does your customer journey look like? What would you like your customer journey to look like? What is the CX experience you want for the client, the customer at the end of that call or at the end of that chat or, whatever? What do you want that thing to look like? Those are the kinds of questions that are really, really meaningful. Not like, I just have this pile of tickets and how quickly can you get through them? Like that's not actual CX. That's just us fixing a problem that may be pertinent at the moment you're in. But, also too, don't ask them, this is very apropos of now, but like, what AI tool will you implement in my solution? Like that's an awful question, because it's not a good question, because all it does is just say, okay, they know how to use AI. Everybody should know how to use AI. It's like really ask questions. Like the questions you should be asking are ones around or we should be asking as an outsourcing provider to a client. We should be asking questions about what's your brand voice? What's your CX journey? How's your strategy? Really, what do you want? I always laugh because we had this high-end client, and they have a high-end luxury good. And they were like, hey, we just want you to come on and do agents for 3 months and then deploy a chatbot. And I'm like, you're a high-end luxury good. Your CX is your average sale is 10 to 12,000 per sale. Why would you want your customer experience to be at the end of a bot? That's actually really not what you want. You want closers. You want an experience that's high touch. This is what you want. And so we had this long conversation around their brand and strategy, and being what would you like to achieve? And so, but, I will say that, going back to what I was supposed to say, the questions of how quickly can you answer a call? Let's talk about CX. Let's talk about meaningful, meaty questions. Those are the exciting stuff for you as a client.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's such a, there's an RFP in the BPO space is almost laughable, because it is very, very metric driven.
I'm at a stand-up desk and my knees just got weak on BPO RFP.
Yeah. I mean, we all have to do it, right? But it's an okay way to start to shortlist some BPOs, but it's a really, really poor way of making a final decision, because again, kind of intangible. I mean, I think there are some metric-driven things, like how long do your agents stay with you, right? Attrition is absolutely something a strong BPO should and would be proud of. I would just all of us try to market ourselves and present ourselves and tell our stories effectively. But one thing we encourage people to do is please peek behind the curtain, dig in. Do you want to talk to our clients? Do you want to talk to our agents? I'm going to sell you the absolute best version of Ethos, but they're going to give you the raw version, right? My agents have worked at other BPOs and they know exactly, what their experience here has been. Our clients, some of them have been through the BPO ringer that Greg described, and then they came to us. Some of them have outsourced for the first time and didn't know what to do. So I encourage people to really dig in. It's like a relationship, right? Business is a relationship with someone that you don't necessarily love in the same way as a spouse, but you can come to love in a different way. And so you want to get to know that company as much as possible, not just how they're telling their story, but what can you uncover, both metric driven and not metric driven. But yeah, I mean, I think getting into KPIs, even the performance metrics that we all probably have on our site about our average CSATs across all of our clients, and ticket volumes that are running up and how many tickets we've served, that stuff is all silly and just kind of part of the game. We had a prospect come in and we're much smaller than Boldr and SupportNinja, the very, very aspirational BPOs for us that we respect a lot, but founder-led sales. So I mean, I'm on every single sales call, and we had a nice discovery with a cool brand, and afterwards, we got into kind of our overview and talked about how much we care about our agents, how we take care of them, pay them well, don't overwork them, all the things that we really care about. And there was just this weird silence at the end, and they were like, well, that's great and all, dismissed all of that. And they said, we were really hoping to know, what are your metrics, right? What are your CSAT scores? What are your NPS scores? And we had already reached time, and I was like, this is not, we are not going to match. We are not value aligned. You are looking at this. We present ourselves as that. And although we might be able to have a successful partnership, this conversation went two different directions on what we both care about. And that's fine. You can get the cheapest dollar per metric met other places, but I don't think it's at Boldr, SupportNinja, or Ethos Support.
No, so I've been trying to figure out how to have this conversation with look at me, obviously workshopping in real time. Safe space.
Safe
Mhm.
space.
Safe space. I would venture, we've not talked about this, but I would venture that our three businesses have walked away from a lot of business. We take the approach of profiling out, not profiling in. And I think value alignment is good from a social and ethical impact, but also just like business impact. Sustainable, profitable, efficient growth, you have to do things the right way. There aren't shortcuts. And so what I've been starting to phrase it as, so at Boldr, we talk a lot about a living wage, working with the Global Living Wage Coalition, really making sure that we're paying at a rate that our team members can have one job. Crazy idea. And pay their rent, have health insurance, pay for food, put their kids in school, all the things that we want. All of our employees should have, but that doesn't always resonate. And what I've really seen over the last year is the three of us, we haven't had this conversation. I would just say to anyone that's looking for a BPO, talk to one of us or talk to all of us. But if you want to know what an ethical price is, what like the going market rate for what good looks like, our prices are all pretty similar. And so if you're finding someone below that, you need to dig in, because either they're not paying adequately or they're not also paying with benefits, which think about how motivated you would be. What would the turnover be? What's the cost of attrition and turnover, onboarding, trading, efficacy, all these things. Or you'll see them really stretching structure. What is their leadership to team member headcount, right? And again, how would you build it internally? Would you do 1 to 20? Is that what good looks like to you? I'm guessing not. So under that price, if it's looking lower than the three of us, look at what they're actually paying their team members that are trying to support your business to grow and take care of your customers in a positive experience. Is it me too or differentiated? What is the structure, or how are they taking care of those team members? Are they building careers, or those team members are constantly looking for another BPO that'll pay them 10 more cents an hour? Right? And then the third, we talked a little bit earlier, I jokingly called it GQ, like gut quota, but that partnership experience. Will one of us get on the phone and talk to you about strategy, or are we going to pitch you on our value prop? Will their SVP of people get on the phone with you and talk about their approach to sourcing talent that is matched to your cultures and your brand value? Like all the same things, that paradigm we were talking about earlier. If you were interviewing to be their head of CX, what are the questions you want to know before you take that job? Can they pass that muster? And so when looking at like what is a reasonable price to build a team, I bet you know what that is in your corporate headquarters, in your market. So those same things, like, is it a living wage? Or are they constantly looking for another job? What are the structure and headcount ratios? What kind of partner relationship did they give you? Not service delivery. Not do they have the expertise to run the service delivery, but a lot of the conversation we're having here is, do they bring partner experience to wrap around you and your leadership team to understand where you're trying to go, how you're going to get there, and what your problem and opportunity statements are?
Well, I think it's a little bit, Greg, and I agree with you on that. It's a very interesting thing. It's like the procurement managers, like the folks who are making these RFPs. It's like they don't necessarily always care about that. They're just like, again, going back to like, it's a unit number economics that they're looking at, and it's wild to me.
Yeah.
That we don't see. I mean, how many times have we, probably all three of us, have collectively been in deals where we're talking to the right people, the CX persons, they're on board, they're understanding what we're doing, they're understanding the value that we're bringing, and then all of a sudden finances and procurement manager gets involved, and then they're asking us questions about stuff that has nothing to do with strategy, has nothing to do with partnership. It has to do with some weird metric that they have. It's like, fine, just tell me what your number is, and let's have a conversation, about what we can potentially do with that. Yeah. But it is very interesting when we think about this space and this idea of being a partner. It's like how quickly they'll go to like treating us. That's why I say I joke. I never want a telco account. And if I can avoid a telco account, I probably will, as long as I am at SupportNinja, primarily because they just want unit economic deals. Like they're just like, how many transactions can you get done in an hour? And
whatever your answer is, increase it by 10%.
Yeah, exactly. And it's wild because unfortunately I've never met, and they're all probably good, solid CX professionals at those organizations, but I've never met one that we've talked to that's been like, oh yeah, like we really, we really want to have a great partnership. We really want to have a high value thing. We understand that it's going to cost a little more potentially to do this. They're always like, how cheap can you get it? And not really having that conversation around price. I tell people all the time, if you want to know where the lowest labor wage rate is in the world, look at where any big BPO is opening their next center.
Yeah.
It's like that simple of the math, unfortunately.
Yeah. Procurement really has their impact from the rise of the CFO-led decision-making from most companies from 2010 onwards. But my wife likes to bring me like ideas about a trip or a product or something. And I ask her like, okay, how much is it? And then she goes into this long-winded answer that has a lot of words and not many numbers. And I say, that's a question that should have been answered with a number, and there's a lot of letters in there. I think maybe flip that when you're shopping at BPO. Maybe ask questions that have a lot of words and maybe less numbers, and that's a good starting point.
I think I really like that, Blair. I think the top line of that would be, or bluff, bottom line up front, and be honest with yourself before you go to market. Just like really be honest with yourself and your leadership team. Do we view our CX as part of our revenue engine, or is it a commodity? If it's a commodity, don't call these 3 people. That's just not our space. So I think that is the question. And a lot of times, I think brands get deep into vendor selection before they actually ask themselves that question. They keep one of us in there for a little bit, and then we just start quietly. I wish I had bushes and I could do the Homer Simpson, just like fade into the bushes. But yeah, I'm not passing judgment on if you want to run your CX organization as a commodity. There's a time and place for that. You still should pay your employees a fair wage. But that's just, I shouldn't speak for you, but I think you'll nod. That's not Boldr's play. Boldr's play is the CX strategy that drives revenue and creates repeat e-commerce buyers and profitable, efficient growth in the MRR world.
Right.
Yeah.
Amen.
Who are the people that are the best folks to talk to? Because thinking of myself as a CX leader and understanding the struggles of getting a budget at all, knowing what I need, thinking about ways to utilize services like the 3 of you. And then you think about the other people, those decision makers that do hold the purse, and they're the ones that would probably play a big role in signing those vendor contracts. Like, who should be in the room and when?
Specifically, on the client side, huh? Like
Yeah.
It's hard because for me, like as an example, like so my chief operating officer, my CFO is embodied in one person, Jake. I mean, it's very weird that we have him in one person, but but I say that to say that like it does take the integration of the strategic organization and the math to connect what you're trying to achieve with CX to the strategic goals of the organization. It takes some math, and so in order to do that, I always think you got to have as high up as you can get, whether it be VP level, C level, as high up as you can get. I normally know if I can get if I have a C level person in the room outside of a CFO, no shame to Jake here, but like outside of a CFO, but like if you have the right people in the room, but you also need that CFO in the room because if you can show that math, because it's funny, we work with clients actually around this a lot where we'll work with our director of CX and we'll help them make the math, show them how that math connects to revenue and like actually paint that picture for them. So that way they can go have a conversation with their C-level suite. And we've even offered to like go in with them and talk to them and be like, here's how we did the math and here's how the strategy plays out. Because I think it's, if you're a budget line item, it's hard to connect the line item to a strategy, right? But if you can take the math and kind of paint that picture up to them, I think it does a lot. And so I always say, let's talk to the person as high up in the organization as we can get, because of course there'll be layers of approvals because, even me in the seat I'm in, I don't guess you do anything just by myself, but like, because that's how we run. We just don't run that way. It's not by fiat, but like, the more people you have that are kind of higher up and part of that strategic discussion, then all of a sudden they're having a really meaningful conversation on the connection between what's happening in CX and the strategy of the organization.
That makes sense. That definitely makes sense.
Blair, you brought up a little bit ago decision by committee and financial led decisions. There's two things. I wish I'd come up with this term. Maybe I'd have a cool t-shirt. And it used to be FOMO. Now it's FOMO, fear of messing up, right? So like there was this old sales strategy that we all hated, but you saw everywhere, which is like FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Like people would create, oh, if I don't do it, I'm going to miss out. Now everyone's worried if I'm the one that makes the decision that doesn't go right, it's a career limiting move. So if I make a decision that doesn't go well, yikes. But if we make a decision that doesn't go well, we'll try again. So I think organizations and leaders are under so much pressure. I don't say that with judgment. I say that with empathy. There's so much pressure that you need multiple stakeholders to get a decision like this, because finding a CX partner is not an insignificant decision. So yes, there's the financial element, but you need multiple stakeholders. And I think that changes within the business. Like Craig, you did find a purple unicorn that flies, that you have both those in one person. But I think the title changes. But I think the two things I bring in addition to that is there's that FOMO. So you need multiple. And then also, I don't think a lot of CX leaders have been given the experience, education, or training by their leadership team on how to speak C-suite.
Yes.
And get out of the language of CX. Because boards don't talk about CSAT and C-suites don't talk about average handle time. And even if they nod their head, it's only because someone told them what AHT means. It has no relevance or context to them whatsoever. Why would it? They're not a CX executive. So we have to get out of CX language and start speaking. We're so good at this when it comes to CX. We live outside in. As CX leaders, we just live, breathe customer advocacy. But then when we look inside, we keep talking to the leaders like us instead of them. So I think maybe that could be a future thing we do, Sarah, which is we come in and we say, what's the language as a CFO? Not to manipulate, but to understand, walk in their shoes, be empathetic. Like we teased procurement a little bit earlier, but they're just trying to do their job.
Yeah,
they're trying to be good fiscal stewards of the revenues the business has made. They're not against you. So CX leaders really typically, I'm speaking in generality, have grown up through the expertise of a support organization or a service organization. When have they been exposed or taught how a CRO thinks, or what a CMO's objectives are, or what the CEO really wants? Which, by the way, depends. Are they a product-led CEO? Are they a sales founder CEO? Are they the CEO that was brought in by the PE or VC after they pushed out the founder, who's just about unit economics and EBITDA? Race to the bottom. So what is the language of that C team, and how do we help CX executives learn that so they know how to connect the value of CX to the objectives of the business? And that's hard to do. That, again, is what we're talking about. What is the value of the BPO? Can they help with those things?
Right. Well, I love that, because I think it actually hits on, like, it's that thing of where I was talking to someone internally, because he was going to present to the L1s within SupportNinja, and he wanted coaching, with the team. And my team's like, they're very not, they're very nice people. They don't need to be so intense in that room. But like, it's that thing of like, how do you talk to your wife? Like, or your partner, like learning how to talk to them, because they're this, you both have this common goal and you're both working towards the same thing, but their interests and the interests you have may not always be necessarily aligned. So you have to learn how to talk to each other and like have that conversation, but you guys are both on the same page. But, we as CX professionals all have the same thing. Why don't they understand me? Just like, why does my wife not understand me sometimes? Well, it's because I'm not speaking in a language that makes sense for her. and I'm not talking in a way that she will understand, so that she'll understand where I'm coming from. And so I love that idea of like us trying to help folks understand, like, there's ways to, it's not us against them. Like, we're together in this thing, like we're both on the same team. Like, how do we have that conversation where you understand what I'm saying and I'm understanding what your needs and requirements are, to ultimately drive value.
So I'm immediately bringing to mind, did you also read that book, was it the Five Love Languages?
Yes.
Yeah. So instead of speaking in your love language, what is your partner's love language?
Right. Gifts
I
or
like, yeah. Are we about to put out a joint blog on the C-suite's love language?
identifying your C-suite love language. That's CX love
That
language.
would be huge. That would be huge. But isn't it interesting though how there are therapists, there are books, there are like couples group things that you go away to like the Bahamas for to understand how to communicate. But within an organization where you probably are spending more time with these people than you do with your spouse, there is a significant lacking of guidance and tools and a safe space to learn how to do this the right way. Because I mean, asking questions in some spaces is great, like you can build that trust and show them that you really do want to learn how to do better. But then there are other spaces where they don't want to do that, not because they don't want you to succeed necessarily, but they don't really have the space. Maybe they don't even know how to articulate it themselves. And it's such a bummer. But it's conversations like this to shine a light on the fact that like a lot of us are blind, and that's why we fail. It's not that people are trying to push us down. It's we're all trying to do our best, but we just are doing our best and communicating it in incredibly different ways.
Yeah. I mean, I think Greg kind of hit on it with the fear of messing up. Like, it definitely sounds nice to be able to communicate with your leadership effectively, right, as a director of CX or CX manager or whatever level you're at. But a lot of people we'll say, champion roles that are, typically tasked with doing the shopping, it's an ongoing process learning how to communicate with their leaders. How do they want a decision made? Am I recommending a decision? Or am I making a decision? They also feel that fear of messing up. So I feel like a lot of buyers are just trying to basically collect as much information as possible and just present all angles, all upsides and downsides, and are very fearful of necessarily making a hardline recommendation until they're asked to do so. So very much, one thing I like to do is just partner with whoever the champion is. Like Craig said earlier, go as high up as possible, because if everyone's in the room hearing the same thing, then that fear of messing up goes away. CX director can look at the, the founder or whoever's in the room and say, look, you were in the room with me the whole time. Like, this is a decision by committee that was made. So it's a lot of information collectors, fear of making recommendations, fear of messing up. But I always tell people, whoever the champion is or the founder, everyone has very, very few people are exclusively self-incentivized, right? A founder is probably presenting to a board, or a head of CX is presenting to a CEO. Everyone is, even a board has to do right by their customers, or their investors, whatever it may be. So I just, we take the approach of just trying to partner with whoever that decision maker or that champion is as much as possible. Like, my job is to make you look good. Like, how are you, where are you in your process? What are you looking for? What information do you need? I want to give you no more or no less than that. More if I think it's going to support the case and support what you're trying to accomplish. And then just aligning that with whoever you're talking to, a director, a VP, a founder, match wherever their kind of incentives are, not from a financial standpoint, but what do they want out of this? Why are they talking to a BPO? What do they want to accomplish? And then just try to make them look good, right? And make it our job to make them look good. But I completely agree with Craig. Like, get as high up as possible. Even if you're a director of CX, if you don't have, if you haven't been in a place 7 years and have this explicit decision-making confidence, loop others in and let's try to, let's get the right people in the room and make sure that everyone's comfortable with the decision.
Such good advice from all three of you guys. I love that I haven't actually asked any of you individual questions like the plan was. It's just been such a wonderful conversation. I mean, we kind of knew this was going to happen, but I didn't realize this was just going to be such a great flow. But I think that like thinking about the future of BPOs, the future of CX, the future of thinking about the customer and how brands evolve and companies evolve, what do you three see as the next big focus that will be coming up in those conversations with new potential customers or existing customers of yours that are hearing about things and wanting to talk to you about it? I will call in people now. Blair.
I mean, it's hard to have a conversation without some mention of AI. But in fear of looking like every other single conversation out there, I'm gonna talk about one that maybe we're pushing on folks that I think is starting to be realized by more and more leading brands, and I think this is a question around innovation and really I think one tie-in with AI is that every brand, especially product-led brands, software, e-commerce, whatever, they're all going to look a lot more like each other. Like everyone can basically, I mean, you could build probably a Salesforce replica with enough coffee and some good AI prompts. So brands are going to look a lot more similar. It's going to be a lot more difficult to be a differentiated brand. Now all the brands get to see what we face here in the BPO space, right? But it's going to be much, much, much harder to stick out. And I firmly believe that brands, some are realizing and more will realize that they have to look at different areas of their business to be differentiated. And I think customer experience is a massive place for them to do so. And that's not just about support. That's about the whole customer journey from when they first interact with your brand till when they make their last purchase or for a lifetime, right? And so I think, where we will be having a lot of conversations is encouraging folks to use CX as a differentiator. And I think a lot of them are going to be much more and have been much more receptive to that and recognizing it that, look, every brand, our sites look the same. We're all designed for perfect optimization towards conversion. We all have an AI chatbot and a knowledge base that looks generally the same. But where people are really speaking out about differentiated brands and experiences they have is the humans they're talking to within those brands, within their support interactions. I always joke, like, it's very, very easy to get in touch with a salesperson at a company. It's very, very, very difficult to get in touch with a support person at a company. But we can all think of brands in our head right now that we had a recent experience with where we reached out and there was a phone number on the site, a live human waiting in chat, or an email response time in 5-10 minutes. And those are the brands that offer probably a similar product that you could have bought at 5 other places, but you're going to keep going back to them over and over and over again because they invest in the customer experience. So I think everyone's going to figure out AI, see how they can build it into their business, optimize it, and it's just going to be table stakes for any brand to simply exist and work through tier 0, tier 1 tickets. But I think innovation is going to come from how do you actually talk to your customers, make yourself accessible, and talk to them on any channel, anytime, any place that they want to meet you. I think the differentiated brands today are starting to realize that, or have already realized that, and others will be playing catch up.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say it's similar to Blair's, but like mine's a little, I would say one of the things that we're going to see, I think a lot of in the CX space is what the rise of humanity in CX, meaning that essentially, like, because data and technology is specifically when we're talking about AI and whatnot, the ways in which data now becomes a cross-section between how and what ways we act as humans to each other, and not so much that interaction that you're having with the tool on a particular site in the CX experience, becomes more and more powerful, meaning that agents become super powered, meaning that like a CX agent now, because of the way data can be accessed using AI tooling and all the other ways, now all of a sudden they have all this information about this client and their journey within that brand and that experience, that now they can just be this very empathetic voice on the other end of the phone or in a chat that's now giving knowledge and driving value and hypercharging that customer experience in a way I think that's going to be really meaningful. So you're going to see the rise of, I think, smaller but like really powerful CX that's highly, I think, for the ones who are really leaning into it, will be really engaging for customers, for all of us, because we all remember that experience we had at a store where this person who was helping us was fantastic to us and we had this great experience and whatnot. We're going to see a lot more. I mean, that sounds weird in the AI space. We're going to see a lot more of that, because basically now the humanity that we're putting into their CX interaction will be risen, because now we can do the work of being a human to another human and not get bogged down in the data, finding that piece of data or whatever, because it's just going to be fed to us constantly in a way that's meaningful in a CX journey as you're going through the process. So I think that's where AI excites me. I think that's a lot of the future of what we're seeing. And I think, as a side note, that's why I think large-scale BPOs and the folks that are in that space are struggling because of that fact. They're absolutely struggling, because the future of CX doesn't look like 1,000 people doing the work. It looks like 50 people doing incredible work. That's fully enabled and value-centric and driving a CX experience that's amazing, but without having to have thousands of people do it.
Love what both of you said. +1 across the boards. I'm going to pull on 2 words that you just used, Craig, because I'm in violent alignment. And that was human and empathy. And empathy is about the curiosity to understand so you can serve. It's not the curiosity to get what I want. And the other end of empathy or humanity is caring. It's curiosity and caring. It's not how fast can I answer you, because that feels easy. It's not, oh, look, it sounds like a human. It's not an audio cue, and it's not a speed. Is there a time and place within your customer's journey that they just need something fast and self-serve? Of course. But again, AI is a tool, not a strategy. And Blair, I think you've nailed it. Our expectations in business are mirroring our expectations in our personal consumer life. We want that brand affinity. We want that human connection, especially, forgive the socio-political comment, as I think we all would agree, we're getting more and more siloed and divided. Unity is a harder thing to find. A connection matters. And I think much like in B2C and B2B, people want a brand and a voice that they connect with. So when I think about empathy, I don't think about speed. When I think about loyalty, I don't think about saying the robot sounds like this kind of person. Did you want an accent? What gender did you want? There's value in using these tools, but they are tools. So I think the future is it will shake out that people realize technology, we have a new one. We've all been in this gig for decades. Go back another decade, it was a different tool. We had the same conversation. Go back another decade, we had the same conversation about something else. But at the heart of it, and again, we don't serve commodity brands, but I think the personal connection, not personalized at scale, it's not about merge templates and tricking people, the actual connection and empathy to put humans to solve problems and be of service is how brands will differentiate themselves and grow.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, what do we want out of life? We want to be respected, we want to be heard, we want to feel valued, and if you want those things in life, if you expect those things from where you're investing your money and your time in when you're purchasing a product, then you will leave to the next thing that looks exactly like it, but they have not decided to go with an AI voice thing that they say you get to talk to a real human, but really they just have a very expensive AI robot that sounds exactly like Susan from your grocery store. But we all want to walk away from this saying, this company cares so much about my success, cares so much about me using their tool the right way, that they are going to pay someone a wage that actually allows them to rest and restore and come to work ready to give their all. They give them the support and the knowledge to be able to answer things effectively, but also safe enough to say, I don't know this right now, hold on, let me go and find the answer for you, and it might take a couple hours, but they'll come back, and that's okay. And then you walk away empowered, you walk away understanding how to use the tool, you walk away wanting to tell your friends about this tool, And you've then increased revenue because you've now got all these referrals. But we're all just people, and that's it.
I tell the team a lot because when they panic about AI and like I can go down the neutralization that just drives me nuts. I cannot believe people want to hear the same voice. We get annoyed by Alexa. Like, why would you want to hear the same voice? But what I tell people all the time, currently AI does not do the exchange of money, right? So that transaction occurs between two humans right now, and it probably will continue to for the foreseeable future. A human is making a decision to spend money on something. It's not AI yet. I mean, I do think that there's probably a future where that will happen, which scares me. But like, at least right now, still need a human for the exchange to happen, right? For that to actually occur. Somebody needs to say, yes, I will pay for this. And so if there's still a human at the end of that transaction, there's still going to be a requirement for a human to help be part of it, like and help facilitate it and be that voice of care, which I think unfortunately sometimes in the drive to like for cost at some enterprise organizations in the drive for cost, sometimes they lose that sight of like ultimately there is a human involved here.
Yep, they lose sight of it, but then they probably will feel that that decrease in their bottom line eventually as their customers start to slip away, and then they'll have to say, I wonder why, and come back around.
Yeah, I see all these AI voice demos, but I'm yet to see a real life scenario where a genuinely angry customer comes in and the bot calms them down and they leave happy. I'm just waiting for that demo to pop up.
It's not. It's not. You're just going to keep hearing someone saying, I forgot how to reset my password. Can you please walk me through this? Sure, I can tell you how to press this button that is over here. And that's all that they will ever show. All right, you three. I could talk to you for years and still want more. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing all of your experiences, your knowledge, your values, and you just are making this world a better place every day, and I just appreciate you. So thank you.
Yeah. No,
Thanks,
honor
Rob.
to be on a panel with these two guys. Greg, thanks for what you said earlier. I mean, totally agree. When we lose business, there's definitely a short list of BPOs we want to lose it to. There's some we lose it to where we're like, please, it's okay that you're not going with us, but just
Who?
Boldr.
No, not them.
I was gonna say, who's that?
All
I'll be sure
That's
like email you guys if there's one that I'm like, don't pick up the phone. Just don't.
But no, I mean, Boldr and SupportNinja are definitely aspirational BPOs for us, seriously leading the way. So thanks for saying that. And Sarah, thanks for setting this up. It's really an honor for us at Ethos to be on this panel, seriously. So thank you.
Couldn't think of a better three. And I will just start putting time in all of your calendars once a week for us to tackle every single department within an organization and figure out how we can right this wrong together, whether you like it or not. But thanks.
I'd like to close with gratitude. I'd like to say, Craig and Blair, thanks so much for joining. Thank you for advocating for what good looks right? There's this fixed pie, false paradigm that exists, and it's not just true. You can do good and do well. You can serve people and do good business as well. I would argue they're paramount in the long run. And then, Sarah, you continue to be an advocate for the CX organization. How do we invest and provide content that helps CX leaders do good work? And there's just so many voices out in this world that are self-promoting. And I just continue to be excited, and which is why the answer is always yes. Because you're like, how do I find thought leaders that are trying to learn from other thought leaders and help other people? And so I just love that positivity and good, genuine energy you're putting out there. And if I can be of more service, please let me know. Glad to be a part of it.
Thank you. Gosh, you guys are just filling my cup. Thank you. I know we went way over, but I hope you guys have a really great day.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. This was great. Thank you so much.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye. All right, everyone, that's a wrap on our very first episode of the CX Roundtable. And honestly, I could not have asked for a better kickoff. Thank you so much to Craig and Greg and Blair for showing up with honesty and depth and a level of care that is so rare in these conversations. And we're just getting started. Next month, we're diving deep into the world of CX content creators. How do you get started? How do you organize your day? How do you find success? How do you feel comfortable being in front of a camera? These are the people behind the posts, the podcasts, and the playbooks that are shaping how the industry thinks. It's going to be bold. It's going to be a little messy. It's going to be a lot of fun, and it's going to be very real. If this episode sparked something in you, a shift in how you think about partnerships, people, or the future of CX, don't keep it to yourself. Follow, subscribe, and drop the word future in the comments, and I'll send you an early look at a strategic playbook built from today's conversation. I want people to learn and have things to take with them to drive change. Because better CX isn't a tagline, it's a choice. See you next month.